So question number one. And I think we asked this in our very first episode or in season 1, we talked about a quest, but let's start with that. What is a quest?
That's help to answer, right?
Okay, go ahead.
So let's talk about first.
What is a quest?
What is a quest, right? A quest is the idea of searching for the unknown, right? Any story that is of any value, right? It's always looking for the unknown. The death of Arthur, right? King Arthur, and the rights of the knights. The Knights of the Round Table. You know, the whole quest for the Holy Grail. That's something that is unknown, and that quest is to really find the things that are inside of you. You know, the things that are innate and dormant inside of you. So one of the cool things that I love about that story is the fact that in their quest, you cannot follow somebody else's path. Like, it has to be like your path.
One that you carved out.
One that you carved out for yourself. Because again, uniquely, you are a manifestation of the universe. Again, I use the Carl Sagan line, we are a way for the universe to know ourselves. So the quest symbolizes, in the physical sense, in what we do in our lives, that quest to transition through life and discover things about ourselves internally. And I'm going to be hesitant to use different words like spiritually or psychologically, but these are things that we discover within ourselves. Consequently, by doing that, we are also bringing that out into the world, you know?
Every time when I think about a quest, I think about, and which is one of my favorite books, I think about The Alchemist.
Yes.
Because what he was doing was he set out on this journey to find like this treasure, right? And along the way, he encounters all of these varying situations that he didn't expect. And he had to overcome them to get to that place where he found love, right? And so there's this thing on Google, and I have to cheat because I don't know it by heart. But I Googled it. I don't know who said it, but basically it's that along the way, he learns to listen to his heart, and more importantly, realizes that his dreams or his personal legend are not just his, but part of the soul of the universe.
Precisely.
Which is exactly what you're saying, which I thought is beautiful. I needed to say that then because I love The Alchemist, and it's something that is more for the people who are not as philosophical and not into mythology and things like that, for them to understand.
But I'm going to disagree with that statement, right? And the reason why I disagree with that statement is because innately, right, we have arrived at this point in the history of humankind through stories. There's, if you look at stories and the stories, how they've been passed down constantly, we've taken those stories, right? Some of us accept it as ultimate truth. Some of us, like scientists, right? Let's say you are curious about it. Wait a minute. Let me find out if this is true. And we either validate or discard those stories, right? The Alchemist is a perfect example, and it's a great story. I mean, Paulo Coelho did it's one of my favorite books by far, and I remember reading that book in one night. Like one night, I remember just reading that book in one night.
I think it took me like 2 weeks.
I was like so engrossed in it because it encompassed the idea of the mythical, you know, alchemy, which is somewhat of a, you know, it's alchemy is like the birth of science, so to speak. And again, science stems from that spiritual quest of understanding the elements of the universe and combining those elements to create something, which is in turn what needs to happen inside of you. You know, the projection is this: the what happens, your experiences, the situations that you faced in life. It's like taking those all those chemicals in the alchemy, all those materials, that raw material, molding it and shaping it into creating something other than what it was. And that's what the quest is. It's experiencing these things in your life in the here and now, mixing and manifesting and making something new that brings about another form of life.
Okay, and so that leads me into my next question. Why do we need to do that? Why should we do that?
Why should we do that? So the problem I think that we're facing right now, it's kind of like depicted. I was looking back because the book is like right behind me, and is Carl Jung and the Undiscovered Self, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Carl Jung and the Undiscovered Self really talks about is the problem that we're facing right now. We are in a very advanced, modern, progressive society, but our society has completely devalued the internal aspect of life, and it's really focusing primarily on the physical and the mental. And what I mean by that is particularly the example of a science that's really run amok and is taking the value out of life is the science of probability, right? He talks about statistics and how statistics really is minimizing what the potential of a human being is, because everything is data quantified and everything is measured in a sense of what is valued and what is not valued, And we've done that throughout history to very, very, really bad results. You see what happens when the Western mind is run wild and no longer has I wouldn't say a God figure, but that spiritual that internal recognition that we live in two realms. Right? We live in the physical, but we also live in something that combines nature itself. This is something that ancient what they're called primitive cultures, but they really were really advanced. Understood that there is a balance between man and nature, and that man is not separate from nature, but a part of it.
Which is what even Joseph Campbell talks about.
Joseph Campbell talks about it, and what he does is that he looked at all these mythologies, but it is the realization that you are part of the whole. We right now are not that anymore.
Okay.
Everything is just based on numbers. Yeah. Everything is based on the data. Does the data says this? Does the data says that? We are in a swing of just, my life doesn't mean anything unless I can measure it and quantify it. If it's not quantifiable, it doesn't need to be around.
Okay, so then, what, to lead into the next question that I have is because you're kind of answering it right now, because you're talking about that. What prevents us from going or embarking on our quest, and or living life as a quest? Is it what you're talking about, the numbers and things like that?
I think we live in a society that is very, very focused on materialism.
Yes, I think it's a societal thing.
Yeah, it's a societal thing, but it is also an individual.
It's a personal thing.
It's
absolutely,
a personal thing,
because
right?
we make that choice.
We make those choices, right? Yeah. And we make those choices to either to live simply or to be somebody,
right? In
terms of, I have status, I have this, I have that, I have all this stuff, right? And you see the balance of that shifting. It's not enough anymore just to live a regular, quote unquote, spiritual life. That's not enough. We don't push our kids to get the most out of what they can, to live in life. We don't really focus on a family, on that nucleus of the family as much as we did in the past. Communities are not really communities. They are ways and means to maximize profit. Even communities that are traditional communities, it's all about, how do I maximize profits and how do I get a competitive advantage over the next person? And we're in this hamster wheel constantly and all the time. But consequently, you could see breaking at the seams, you know. I mean, recently here we experienced two young professionals that worked the entire life to get to that status, just commit suicide.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the suicide are skyrocketing. The level of hate and separation are skyrocketing. The I'm this and you're that, and the tribalism of things skyrocketing. You know, so why does that happen? It's because we are constantly and more focused on statistical measurements and the idea of no longer that separation.
Okay. So then just to recap, a quest is basically, to summarize what you're saying, and to use Carl Jung's words, is to discover the undiscovered self.
Yes.
Is that a good way to put it?
That's a very good way to put it. Yeah,
it's going exactly on a journey to discover that of what we don't know.
And what we don't know about ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so looking at life as a quest is important because discovering these things about ourselves. Okay.
It brings about new life.
Right.
It brings about
perspectives.
different perspectives. You know, I'll give you an example of my personal experience, and I could only speak from experience, my personal experiences. Right, I had to let go of a lot of anger and a lot of things like that, both from growing up, professionally, and things of that nature. There's a lot of things I feel like I was always overlooked because of who I am. I'm outspoken. I'm passionate. I'm emotional. I think about things. I want things to be done in a certain way, and all those things were always kind of like, you know, I feel like I was constantly pushing against the wall. So I was angry and understanding why that anger was happening inside of me, and then questioning it and going to try things to create my own world, as difficult as it has been. It's given me a different zest, and it's given me like a different perspective of seeing who I am, the things that I do need to work on, but also creating this, which with the intention of bringing some light into the world, so that someone's life might be just a little bit tad better. You know, I have many examples. Luckily, I've had examples of individuals that have able to come back to me and say, you know what, thank you for telling me that, or thank you because when, you know, you always told me this and that and the other. I'm grateful for that. I'm lucky to have been in those situations. Like, I'm really fortunate. But when you're going through the crap and the shit, you don't really think of any of that. But in retrospect, you're like really thankful for that. So that right there, just bringing a little bit of light into the world, is like the beautiful thing about it. You're creating something out of all the muck, you know, and that's kind of like one of the beauties of it all.
Okay.